Hello beautiful ladies, and welcome to today's video where we're going to be talking about how to attract the best man for you. Have you ever been on a date where you got home afterward and you were just exhausted because you felt like you had been wearing a mask the entire time? That has happened to me plenty of times where I just felt like I wasn't really being myself. And that can happen when you're with someone who you could even have a good time with, but they're just not right for you. They don't make it easy. It's not like you can really truly be yourself. When you're dating, you have to keep so many things in mind. But I thought we would talk a little bit today about how to attract that perfect guy for you, the kind of guy that you want. How to get the kind of guys that you're interested in you. And it is difficult. Of course, there is a lot of stuff when you're dating that is just out of your control. And I don't think dating is by any means easy, but I do think that there are certain things that we as women can do to attract the kind of men that we are interested in. And so I thought I would share with you guys 5 different things that I think you can do to help you attract that certain guy. And so hopefully all the things that I'm talking about today are the things that are going to attract that guy who really does make you feel like you can be yourself. So let's get into it. The first thing I want to talk about is leaning into your traits, aka being extroverted or introverted. So I'm sure you've read about these different traits, being extroverted and being introverted, all over the internet. It's kind of something popular that people like to talk about. And I never really put much stock into it until I really wanted to invest time and energy into my dating life. So I personally am an extroverted introvert. Now, all of this sounds silly and jargon-ish, but the fact of the matter is that I'm very comfortable being outgoing, hanging around people, spending time socializing. I really love all of that stuff. But at the end of the night, I do need time by myself to refresh, to recover, and just really enjoy my alone time. My alone time is very important to me. But here's the thing about being an extroverted introvert. If you're an extroverted introvert, it means that the people who meet you are gonna think you're extroverted because you're constantly in social situations when you're meeting people, and they are thinking that that's you naturally, that you are just an extroverted, outgoing person. This did not turn out so well for me in dating because what would happen is that I was constantly attracting introverts. Extroverts and introverts are generally attracted to each other. It's like an opposites attract kind of thing. And so I was constantly acting extroverted, and so introverted men were expressing interest in me. And I'm really not attracted to introverted men. So I was sending out all the wrong signals. I was sending out all the signals that were attracting the worst kind of guy for me. The fact of the matter is I knew I wasn't gonna end up with someone who was introverted because I loved being around men who were outgoing, who were extroverted, but they weren't really attracted to me because they thought I was also extroverted. And so it wasn't until I talked to a friend of mine where she said, you talk about how you're an extroverted introvert, but people who meet you are just gonna think you're extroverted. Have you thought about trying to be a little bit more introverted when you go out, when you try and meet men? And it was like a light bulb went off in my brain. I was like, how did I never think about that? That's so funny. So when I actually went out and started trying to be a little bit more introverted when I was around people, engage that part of myself in public, all of a sudden, I met my husband. Now, I don't know if those are totally equivalent, but I do sort of think that kind of accessing that introverted part of me attracted somebody who was so extroverted. My husband is probably the most extroverted person on the face of the planet. If he could be around people 24/7, he would be, and it wouldn't bother him at all. That's how he recharges. And I am more introverted. It works for us because I'm great when we're around people, but I'm the person who's kind of calling it at the end of the evening saying, okay, let's let them go home because he doesn't even feel exhausted or tired at all. And so it was really a lesson for me in engaging that inner part of me, that introverted part of me, when I was around people, so that when I was actually looking for men, I was meeting men and attracting men who were what I wanted, which was an extrovert. It's so important for me personally to be with an extrovert because I like that my husband can take the lead when I feel like, hey, I need to take a little bit of a step back, or I don't really know what to say here, or if I'm uncomfortable in a conversation. He's really comfortable in social situations, and I absolutely loved that. I didn't want to be the one taking the lead all the time. Now, if you are the kind of woman who is introverted, maybe bring that out a little bit more when you're around people, and maybe you'll get more interest from extroverted men. Or the opposite, if you are a more extroverted person, but you kind of have social anxiety, maybe try and work on that a little bit so that when you do go out, you can be more extroverted. And when you are trying to attract men, you might attract that kind of man that you're more interested in, somebody who is a little bit more introverted and works with you. So really leaning into your traits, learning more about yourself so that you can attract your opposite is so important to finding that right guy for you. Now, what I will say is that not every couple has an extrovert and an introvert. There are a lot of couples where they're introverted or they're both extroverted and it works for them. So this isn't to say that this is a 100% always do this kind of thing, but it is something to keep in mind if you found that the guys that you are attracting aren't the kind of guys that you're interested in. So if that is something that you're noticing, maybe try putting this into practice in your own life. Next up, let's talk about the kind of dates that you go on. Make sure that the kind of dates that you're going on are things that you're actually interested in. Don't just agree to whatever he suggests unless you're really open-minded, because if you're constantly going on dates that just he enjoys, then he's not really going to see your personality. You're not going to see if you guys have similar interests. You're not going to see if you guys are both open-minded to trying new things. It's really important to voice what you like to do, because if he's constantly attending events that you're really not interested in, it's going to inform who he is and your relationship. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't go out on dates and be more adventurous, but it means if it's something that you don't like doing, you shouldn't do it. You should absolutely be open, upfront about the things that you like to do, because then he'll learn something about you and you'll learn something about him. You might see what he finds really important. You might see that he is open-minded to the things that you enjoy. You might see that he's a romantic or something like that. Just constantly letting him decide what you guys are going to do, even if it's something that you're not interested in, is just not going to teach you a lot about each other. And that's really what dating is. And that's really what attracting the right guy is finding somebody who you can learn about and see if you guys would be a good fit together. Because if you're constantly just kind of going along, he's not gonna learn anything about you, you're not gonna learn anything about him. And it's just so important from the beginning to really be using this all as a mission to find the right person. If you're taking dating seriously, those dates that you go on actually do matter. So if you're just going along because you don't wanna say no, it means you're not really taking advantage of your dating time to learn about this man, to learn if you guys work together, to learn if you're attracted to each other, and to learn if you have similar interests or if you guys are open-minded to trying each other's interests. So it's so important to really be decisive and say what you really like doing from the get-go, because he'll appreciate it, because A, he won't have to make every decision by himself, and B, he'll really learn about you from the beginning. My third piece of advice is to be very clear about your physical boundaries from the beginning. If you're not clear with your physical boundaries from the beginning, then you won't attract the right guy, because he won't know how comfortable you are and how far you're willing to go. If you are somebody who is waiting till marriage, it's really important to put that out right at the beginning, because a good guy and the kind of guy you want to end up with is A, either going to be on the same page with you, or B, going to respect that and say, okay, I'm on board because I respect you. And that is really important to attracting the right guy. That is not negotiable, because if you aren't clear with your physical boundaries, the fact of the matter is you may end up doing something that you don't want to do, that you would regret. And it's not because he did anything really bad, it's just because you weren't clear and you didn't even confirm it with yourself. That's really the first step, is knowing how far you want to go and then telling this guy that you're interested in where you are comfortable going. Because if you're not clear from day one, you guys will be on different pages and you will attract guys who are not comfortable with a girl who wants to wait till marriage. And then you would be halfway through a relationship and in a situation that's really uncomfortable, really not what you want. So to find that right guy and to attract him, being very clear with how far you want to go physically is just going to stop anything that would progress, but that would end up in heartache, because you would know from the very beginning, from day one, how far both of you want to go. It's just incredibly important for you to know how far you want to go. When guys do express interest in you, you can either figure out if that's the kind of guy you want to be with or not. And these are kinds of things that aren't something you want to mess with, because you don't want to get hurt, you don't want your feelings to get hurt, and you don't want to cross any lines that you're not comfortable crossing. So that's really one of the most important ways to figure out how to attract the best guy for you. Number 4 is dress for the man you want. It's like dress for the job you want. If you want a certain kind of guy, dressing in a certain way will attract that kind of man. If you're looking for a guy who's a little bit more professional, who has a nice job, you might want to dress a little bit more in a classic way. You want to dress in a way that he would find attractive, that he would want in a partner, and that he would like in you. And if you're looking for a guy who's a little bit more casual, a little bit more laid back, wearing something that is more casual, that reflects that. Now, of course, these are things that you should know about yourself, right? Like if you are the kind of woman who does like to dress casually and that is something that you enjoy casual activities, that might be the kind of man that you want to attract. So you don't have to change anything. But if you are the kind of woman who maybe dresses in a different way than you live your life and dresses in a different way than the man that you would want to end up with might dress, then that is something you should consider in the way that you dress. You should consider if maybe I should change the way I dress. Maybe I should wear more skirts or more dresses, or maybe my skirts should be a little bit longer and not as short. If you're dressing in a way that is very immodest, you may end up attracting men who aren't really that interested in a long-term relationship. That's not 100% of them, but that is something that could come up because he might think that you are interested in something that's a little bit more short-term and not long-term because you're dressed in a way that doesn't reflect your long-term goals. But if you're looking for a guy who is wanting to get married, who he looks at you and he thinks, I could take her home to my mom dressed exactly like this and she looks lovely, then you would be absolutely up the right alley with the guy that you'd want to be with. So it really is important to dress for the kind of guy you want to attract because men have different preferences too. We have different preferences, so do men. So we might as well kind of feed into that a little bit, play the game in a wise way so that you end up with the kind of guy that you would want. And I think that there are a lot of ways that you can dress that are definitely something that you would still love and like to wear, but that maybe leans more toward the kind of thing that your perfect guy would be attracted to. So taking a look at your closet, sifting through, finding the kind of clothing that you think would reflect well on you if you were to go out and try to meet someone is a good idea. And if it's something that you really do like, and if you only fill your closet with things that you enjoy, then even once you've met the right guy and you guys are together, you still have this closet full of clothing that you know he'll love and you like too. So it's not to say that you should absolutely upend your sense of style. It's to say, take your sense of style and kind of narrow it, use it to attract the kind of guy that you are really looking for. My last piece of advice is to either become friends with people who know you really well, even if they don't share your values, but would be good at setting you up with someone who does, or people who do share your values so that the people that you're hanging around with and the people who might be brought into your circle would be someone who you could end up with. So let's talk about option A. If you have a friend who knows you really well, who respects you and respects your values, even if they don't share them, then that person could absolutely set you up with someone who would be good for you and who you would want to be with because this friend knows you well enough to find that guy for you. The reason I say that is because in my experience, my husband and I had a mutual friend who does not really share our values, but who really respected where we came from and respected our views. So he set us up even though he didn't share them because he knew us well enough to do that. So finding those friends who really know you and care about you and want you to end up and be happy with someone is a really, really good way to attract that right kind of guy because someone's looking out for you. And that is so important when it comes to dating. And then the other thing you can do is just spend time around your friends who you do love their values and who could theoretically not even set you up, but just bring someone into the friend circle who shares your values and who you might be attracted to. Because you'll attract the people who you also spend time with because they'll just be in your friend circle, in your friend group, kind of more in your life, just the way that you live it. So if you find that you are spending time with people who really don't share your values and don't know you that well either, you're probably not going to meet that many people who do share your values and the kind of guy that you would want to attract. But being in a group of friends who do share your values is going to up your chances of meeting that kind of guy that you would want to attract. And of course, if you have girlfriends who are dating guys that you like, you should always ask if they have friends because they'll probably also have the similar values that you're attracted to. So it's really just about making it more plausible for you to meet the kind of guy that you'd want to attract by hanging around the same kinds of people. That's just one of the easiest ways for you to figure out who you really do want to be with and to make it more likely that you'll meet them. I think it's really important in life to try and do your best to make things possible. That isn't to say that dating is easy, but it is to say that when you're dating, you should try and make it as easy as possible for the right guy to find you, to be attracted to you, and for you to end up with that perfect guy for you. So putting in the effort to attract that guy is just a really good policy, and I think these are some good tips and tricks for you to try. Let me know in the comments what you do to attract the kind of guy that you're interested in. If you ended up with the guy that you sort of tried to attract, I'd love to hear. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. Please subscribe to my channel and blog if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell to get notified of all my new videos. Hit that like button. Head over to my Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook and follow me there. Please head over to classicallyabby.locals.com if you'd like to support my channel, see more of this content, and be part of our community. And I'll see you guys in my next video.